This is our Learning Without Limits series, all about how to support online learning, but really importantly that so many of these different things are going to be really, really useful when we get back to physical classrooms as well. So I hope that this is really useful to you. I am so proud to have been able to say as well that we are collaborating not only with EAND, KH Consulting, Lane Education, EdRuption and Allprint. So every person who is an Apple professional learning specialist from across the Middle East is part of this series, and it's going to be really, really helpful to everybody who's using iOS at home. And actually this one specifically could be really useful to you even if you don't have iOS at home. Shanaz, who is one of the most wonderful early years teachers that I have ever met. Her passion and dedication to education is second to none, and she has taught across the Middle East, not just the UAE where she is now. And we're so lucky to have her talking to you today about remote learning and designing intentional learning in early years with creativity, play and purpose.
Before we start, I want us all to just take a deep breath. Before we dive in, I want you to take a deep breath. I know what it's like teaching early years children. Imagine having a 4-year-old on the other side of this glass screen. I know exactly what it's like. I know what it's like to feel like a failed YouTuber. You're trying to get their attention. And I've got 4 kids at home with me as well. So it's a crazy house, but I see you and we see you. It's not as if we are failing. The system and the medium that we are using right now is challenging, and the time that we are going through is challenging. So it's great for us to just take a deep breath and be calm. Today's session, I'm going to be going through 3 different aspects, and it's going to be heart, head, and hands. So heart is how we're feeling and our capacity. Then we're going to be looking at the pedagogy or the why, the science behind this, the things that we are doing and the things that I'm sharing. And then the hands is going to be how can I actually empower you to move forward and take this to the next level when you go back to your classes tomorrow morning. So the first one is I see you. I want you to feel comfortable. The second one is this is our brain and our head. I want us to maybe look at shifting our mindset. What does remote learning look like in the early years, and how we can shift it away from what was the expectation in the classroom and also from COVID. A lot of things have changed since then. A lot of the ways that we teach has changed since then. So how can we shift our mindset from letting go of some of the control that we teachers like to have, and how can we use this in a way for children to thrive under the circumstances? The last thing is the promise, and this is the promise that I would like to give you, is that I promise that you would leave the session feeling more empowered, and I want to be able to help you to make better choices and better, hopefully better decisions when we go back to the classroom. For most of these sessions, for most of the rest of the session, I'm going to be looking at the elements of learning that come directly from Apple. This is the Apple framework that we use to enhance education through technology. It is a teamwork, communication and creation, personalization of learning, critical thinking, and one of my favorites, real-world engagement. And how can we get this despite being at home? How can we get students to use all of these things whilst being at home? So we're going to look at ways in which that we can add these things to the way that they are learning at the moment. If you hear anything and you're doing it already, please pop it into the chat box. If you have any other ideas or something along the lines that we are discussing, please put it into the chat box. I'd love for it to be super engaging. Share your ideas. You are the ones with the best practices. If you are in the situation and you are at ground level, like myself at grassroots level, we have a different type of experience with this, and it will be amazing for me to see what are you guys going through and how we can help each other navigate through this. Okay, so the first part is what exactly is the reality of remote learning in early years. And as we can see from the screen, these are some of the challenges. There's screen fatigue. We expected to follow the normal timetable. What does it look like? How long are lessons? Children need somebody with them. They need supervision. They need, what are they doing? Are we expecting them to sit and listen to us? Is it passive consumption? Is it active content creation? what are they actually doing when they are sitting behind that screen and listening to us. Also, we have to understand the children, especially early years, between the ages of 5 and 7, their attention spans are really, really low, short attention spans. So we need to look at how we can use all of this information that we have to create a better space for us and them. And what can we do about it? So my key takeaway for each part of my discussion today, we're going to have a key takeaway, and I want you to think about these things. If children are sitting still watching, we've already lost them. We need them to be active. We need them to be physical. We need them to be moving around and being engaged. So rethink the lessons that we did today or the lessons that you're going to be doing tomorrow. Is it something that children actually have the opportunity to move around for? What are our rules? What are our expectations of them? And does it work? Secondly, what does intentional remote learning actually mean? Is it something like when we're in the classroom, it looks like students sitting, students listening, students engaged, that crisscross applesauce, mountain or mermaid, how are we actually going to sit? How do we get them to do things? We have to think that when we are doing learning at home and remote learning, it's completely opposite, right? It's completely opposite. So intentional learning is not long live lessons. It's not worksheets sent home. It's not app overload, moving from one app to another. We need it to be connection, especially at this time. What can they do and how can they share? Keep it simple and keep it meaningful, and that way the children will be engaged. I have here on the side, I'm sure a lot of teachers are familiar with this. This is called a sensory homunculus, this little man on the side here. And it's basically showing us how humans perceive and process information and the areas in which they process it the most. So from it, we can see it's very disproportionate. It shows us that children and humans learn most from what they do with their hands and obviously their taste and their senses. So if we know this, and this is the pedagogy and the science behind why and how they learn, we know that they use their hands to learn best. Yet a lot of our teaching practices have been moving away from that, or we tend to forget it as time, I think, as teachers. So it's about preparing and being intentional with our learning experiences. What are we actually getting them to do? And the do should be the biggest part of it. First, that connection, so they know that we are serious about their learning. Secondly, what can they do? How can they get involved? And then get them to share, because by sharing, it builds up engagement. This also, it brings about like stage and age. Early years is very different from primary years or the older students. So the way we do online learning at this time is very, very different. Okay, so for a 3-part remote learning structure, we're going to be looking at what does a mini lesson look like? How can we do this? What is the play part of it? And we're going to rethink what it actually is. How can we get them to do all of these things within this 20-minute lesson? The ADEC policy that was shared with schools states that a lesson shouldn't go above around 20 minutes. So how can we make sure that we're teaching, our input is there, they have an option to play, they have an option to engage with us, we have an option to check in with them, and then also with sharing back. Something that I've created for my class and my lessons is something like this, where we have the mini lesson at first. So as soon as they come on, I'm like, hi guys, how are you? Allow yourselves to unmute, connect with your children, connect with your students, see where they're at. This is where the socio-emotional part comes in. What are you guys doing? How can we do this? What's nice? Who can share something nice with me? If we're waiting for other students to actually enter, we can say, oh, I want you to quickly go get me a little toy. Tell me something about it. Just connect with them. This is the most important thing. At the end of the day, we are humans. We want children to learn. We want students to learn. We need to be able to show them that we want to connect with them. Yes, we have the curriculum to cover, but we also want our students to love learning. We never knew about things like, for example, AI and things like that 15, 20 years ago. But if you have the passion and the love for learning, it doesn't matter what you're going to learn, you're going to want to learn it. So this is what I want to ignite into my students, the passion for learning. So the first part of our lesson will be the mini lesson. We connect, then we get to our input. Okay, boys and girls, today we're learning about the weather. Why not? Let's look outside and see what the weather actually looks like. Bring the real world engagement into it. Ask them, what do you think is going to happen if there's these big clouds outside? What do you suggest? What do you predict? Use the terminology with them. You will be surprised at how students are able to pick up and able to share with us, and they are more than willing. Then the second part of it is, what are they actually going to do in the lesson? So if it's about the weather, we're going to say, okay, now Ms. Shanaz is going to go and see what's happening outside. Now I want you to, when we get off this call, you're going to be the weatherman, or you're going to go and take a video. You're going to tell me, create a blog post, or it doesn't have to be an actual blog post. It can just be them and the camera. So today we're going to be looking at Apple tools that we can use, just simple things. It doesn't have to be amazing apps, AI and all of these things. Just a simple camera tool, camera app. They're going to be using this to redefine and to deepen their understanding and get them engaged. This is the most important thing that we want them to do. So for example, we will say, we're learning about the weather. Let's go and see, wonder why it's looking so great today. Who can tell me why? Who can engage with them and then get them to create their own weather chart, create their own weather thing, create their own, imagine that they are telling the weather, when it's raining, what will happen, all of those things. So you can really go deep with it, but I want you to think about the lessons that you did today, the lessons that you're going to be teaching tomorrow. I want you to design for what happens away from the screen, right? When we are on the screen, our job, our purpose is to engage with them, to do all of those things. So think about what they're doing away from the screen. Think about what they're doing with the screen away from us without that support. Are they actually empowered to do things by themselves? Yes, we do have an adult there who can just pop in and say, okay, let me help you unmute, but are we actually getting the students to create content? We don't want them to sit and look at us and consume what we are saying all of the time. We want them to actually create their own content, and we'd be amazed by just giving them that opportunity how they can do it. And then the last part is how they're going to share back. And we can look at different ways. I don't know, everybody's schools are different. So some schools are using Seesaw or Toddle. How are they actually sharing back what they've learned? And this is going to lend itself to all of the other things like differentiation and authentic assessment and all of those things. So give yourself some time to think about the do, the connect, the do, and the share. So those three elements, how can we do it more purposefully, and how can we design for it more intentionally? And then now this takes us to the next part, which is what does engagement actually look like? Engagement looks like not children sitting with their cameras on, sitting still, answering questions, all of these things. Especially in early years. I think once they get to year 2, year 3, it's a lot different. But especially in the early years, it's fine if they move. It's fine if they my son this morning, he had his tortoise and he's ready to show his teacher. But for me, it wasn't like, I'm sure the lesson was nothing to do with tortoises. But for me, just the excitement of him wanting to get on and show his teacher this and build up from that. Oh, wow. What does tortoise actually start with? What sound does it start with? Does this tortoise have a hard shell or a soft shell? Where is the tortoise? Where can we put the tortoise? Does it live in the ocean? Does it live in where does it live? Where's its habitat? So all of these things are things that actually lend itself to good engagement for students, and it shows that you genuinely care and how all learning is actually linked. We need to move away from the idea that learning only happens in a classroom. Learning only happens when students are sitting still. Learning only happens when we're sitting crisscross. So this is something that we need to also look at. What is engagement? For me, a child that's constantly unmuting themselves to say something is a child that wants to be heard. It's not a child that's like needs to be muted all the time. Give them that spotlight. Give them that spotlight to have a say and see what they want to say, and then say, okay, wow, now I'm going to get back to you tomorrow. So you got you got some time to think about it, and then come back to me tomorrow, and then you can tell it to me again. just those kind of tweaks that we do in our lessons will make each and every child feel seen, and they'll want to engage with us and they'll want to learn. That love of learning is our main goal and main priority, and that is what will drive engagement eventually, right? So the key takeaway from here is give physical challenges, not just verbal questions. I love it when students go, for example, today I was teaching animal adaptations and I said, go and get a toy animal. I'm pretty sure everyone has a toy animal in their house. If you don't, get a picture of one. And then you're going to take a photograph of it, and then we're going to add a speech bubble and say, what is that adaptation? Simple thing. We didn't have any fancy apps, just the camera tool, just sharing it back for me on Seesaw, but students were engaged. Just the stop in the middle of the lesson where they had to go run and get it just gives them that brain break and that movement break that we all need. With all of us being at home, we're not getting the steps that we need to get in. So we need to look at how we can get them to move at least every 7 to 8 minutes. Our children should be moving. Earlier, we spoke about sensory play and how important it is. This is also something for self-regulation. Our students need to be self-regulated, and by this, they need to be moving. It's not just sitting. Yes, it's very good for them to have an allocated space to do the learning, but what does the learning and engagement actually look like? And we shouldn't be scared to let go of the control, but if the infrastructure is sound, like, for example, all of the safety aspects is taken care of on their devices, why not let them have fun? Let them use this opportunity to design and stuff. There's so many opportunities online. You can open a white thing, allow them to collaborate, let them draw, let them do all of these things. We don't have to control every single minute of their learning. We have to provide them the space to actually learn and grow. Okay, the next one is, so now we know what engagement looks like. We know about the pedagogy behind it. We know about the way a child learns at this age. We know all of the theorists that we have. We have Piaget, we have Vygotsky. The main thing for me is I want students to Maslow before they bloom. And we are aware of Maslow's theory, where children need to feel comfortable, they need to feel engaged, they need to feel all of these emotional safety before they actually do it. And then when they feel this, they will be able to be super creative and they'll be able to express themselves in the way that they can, right? So this is a lesson that we did earlier today, and it's designing play-based tasks at home. The most important thing is use what students have at home. Don't feel like you need to go out and buy yourself some resources and that you need to create these amazing things. Use what you have. If you've got Amazon boxes, that is amazing. You can turn it into anything. If you've got just coins at home, you can do that. Use what the children have at home. And the best thing about this is this is the perfect opportunity to bring in real-world engagement, because we're not using specified resources that are made for teaching and learning. We're using anything. If you're learning about shapes, use your camera tool, take a picture of the window, show me how that's a square, redraw it. Then you can maybe add a speech bubble to it and then describe yourself. You can talk about properties of a shape. I've got corners, I've got sides, all of those things. How many sides do I have? What can I say about myself? If I were to cut myself in half, I could either be 2 rectangles, or I could be a triangle, or 2 triangles. And you can go to town with all of the possibilities with that. Just simple taking a photo of a window. So it's not about rethinking the wheel. It's about how can I make sure that these children are actually enjoying what they are doing. I'll show you here. If we can play this. Oh, no. Okay, so basically this one, we have a picture here and I showed them how to use markup. So the markup tool the children were able to, let's see here if it's not playing. Oh, yeah. So they took a picture of their crab and then we added a markup. And then you can see the markup tool here on this. We can add glasses for him because they noticed and they observed that his eyes were too small. Then we spoke about what does he need to see his eyes for? What does he need his eyes for? How does he actually see things? If you click on that, you can see there's a lot of options there. There's some stickers. We can add some emojis. There's a cow, I think. Yeah, we're going to add a cow in. And then they can add, and then from this, they can go from animal adaptations, and then we can go into the cow was so shocked to see a crab with glasses. Oh my goodness. Then you can create a story. Why did the cow see the crab? Then what did the crab say? It became a really, really engaging lesson for my boys at home because they were able to decide for themselves, they were able to make decisions, and they were able to also have fun with it. And yeah, they were like, hey, a cow. Simple things. This is just the camera app. And I'm sure like schools that are one-to-one with Apple devices, they're already doing things like this. It's about making sure that students are able to make the most out of the simple apps. We underestimate these apps. Yeah, I love this feature where it can zoom in on it. So it's really nice for learning about textures. Like, for example, if you see the wood on the table, if you use something like that, you could talk about the patterns in the wood and things like that. Then if we look next. Okay, so now we got children creating. And when children create, nobody creates the same. We all create completely differently. So if we are creating completely differently, we will not have the same ideas. And because of this, we take ownership of it, right? So if we have different opportunities to create something, we are able to express ourselves in the way that we are most comfortable. Some children like drawing, some children like building, some like acting it out, some like recording, some prefer speaking. All of these things are okay. There are so many opportunities for us to be able to learn in different ways, and children should be given a choice, student voice, agency. How do they actually navigate through their learning on their own? So give them the opportunities. It doesn't have to look like a written piece. It can be a drawing. It can be an opportunity for us to go deeper, and this gives them a sense of ownership, and it lends itself to engagement and effective learning. So for example, if children want to draw, they can build, they can act, they can record, and all of these things make it a lot easier for teachers because you're giving them the, what can I say, the comfort to actually go out and do it the way they want. And this is going to release teacher workload. It's going to make it much more easier for teachers. And think about it like this. The key takeaway here is one task, but multiple ways to respond. How can we make sure that children are giving us different types? And what is this different type of information? The things that they give us back, this is the data that we want. What does this lend itself to? This actually lends itself to authentic assessment remotely. So if some children are giving back a voice recording, some children are giving back a drawing, some are giving us photos with markup, some are giving us a whole story. This is giving us huge insight into the child, and this is giving us a holistic insight into the child. If we look at the whole child, and earlier we just touched on how they actually learn, in terms of sensory, in terms of, Vygotsky talks about how the child's environment is the most important thing, whereas Piaget, he comes from a background of like a child has to be ready to develop and has to be ready to actually experience things. So he thinks that before the age of 7, learning has to be completely concrete. So if we look at these different theories and we look at the holistic child, what does it tell us about authentic assessment? Like a child is made up of, the whole child is made up of many, many aspects. And we can see here on the screen, I have pies because it's physical, intellectual, emotional, and social. And all of these things make up the whole child. And physical goes with whether the child is sleeping well. Now with all of the uncertainty that we have, a lot of children are not getting a good night's sleep. This is something that we need to look at. intellectually, has a child been exposed to blocks and play and all of those things? What do they have at home? Do parents actually know how to use the things that they have at home if they don't have blocks, and if they don't have, for example, Lego and things like that? How can they make sure that their child is learning without these things? It can be done. Like, as I said, like even with just an Amazon box, how can you make sure that learning is happening and engagement is happening with this? The next one is emotional. Our students are going through the most now emotionally. What are we doing? What are we doing for socio-emotional? What are we doing for checking in with them? This is just as important. Students' well-being is exceptionally important. You know, we are uncertain, they are uncertain. How can we make sure that we as the adults are allowing them the safety and giving them that comfort for them to actually be emotionally secure? And are we giving them the tools to actually self-regulate? Are we giving them ways in which for them to actually self-regulate? Today on my class, we spoke about the different types of breathing, and we practice things like candle breathing. We hold our finger out like a birthday candle and we like breathe in and breathe out. Other things like belly breathing, holding your belly and just breathing in and breathing out. And also horizon breathing, like moving your hands right out like a rainbow. And we use horizon breathing by stretching our arms out and just doing that. And things like that, things like actually emotional, how do we make sure that our children are self-regulated? And the last one is socially. So at the moment, students are at home, they may not be seeing their friends. This is also something that's going to impact on the way they actually, maybe they learn better in class. And reversely, we're going to see the children that are usually shy and quiet in class, and we see a completely different child online. And this is also amazing to be able to witness. So the children that are super quiet in class, they're now showing a completely different side. And so we see these things, and this gives us insight into the holistic child, a child that feels safe, a child that feels emotionally secure, a child that feels socially secure. They're able to give off their best. We know, ourselves included, if something is missing or if something is not in balance, we're not going to be our best. So if a piece of the pie is missing, then we need to ask ourselves, how can I redesign my learning opportunity for this child? How can I redesign the lesson that I have for this child to make sure that he is able to be at his best? Sometimes it takes a little tweak. Like I had a student once who loved the planets. He refused to do any other assessment, and I changed one or two of the questions and I just put a planet picture there, and it like did a world of good. A simple tweak, no IEP, nothing else. Is just sometimes it just takes a little bit of effort, and you see the child shine. So it's about giving ourselves that opportunity to do that. And we want children to be creating things. We want children to be designing things. We can give them also choice. You know, a lot of schools have been looking at core subjects at the moment, for example, English, math, and science. And this is amazing. They are really important. But also, what about the children that actually love art? What about the children that really their favorite subject is actually PE? Are we giving them, as a school, as teachers, are we giving them the opportunity to shine in the areas that they are most comfortable in? Are we giving them the space for them to do what they need to actually feel regulated? So if they're not having that swimming, or if they're not having that PE or that art, they're not going to be at their best. So another thing that's really nice is creating could do and should do boards, where it's a challenge based and it's completely different activities, and it's optional. So you get to choose, you get to design, you can go to town with it, you can have as much fun as you want, but you're getting the opportunity for the things that you actually love. And because of this, we are able to see what children know. And when we talk about authentic assessment, we want it to be authentic because we want it to make sure that this is the actual child's work, or this is the actual the best work. When we do assessment, I often question myself and the other teachers in my team, like, our focus should be on how much does this child know? Like, what are the strengths of this child? It's not as if we as teachers are waiting to see, oh, we got 9 out of 10 or 7 out of 10, or he doesn't know this, so it's a checklist. No, it should be try and give them the benefit of the doubt, try and give them the scaffolds that they need to succeed. And how can we actually do this? We spoke about how the whole child learns. Are we actually giving them the opportunity for this? Because we cannot say, oh, we're going to have a Zoom meeting with them, we're going to do the assessment, or they didn't know anything. Even this child, when he's in class, he's able to do so much more. So give them a little slack, like cut them a little, be a bit lenient with them and see. Maybe sometimes it just needs a little check-in. What can I actually provide this child with? How can I help him to achieve what he needs to achieve? So the key takeaway here is assess through what the children do and not just what they make. I know we struggle a lot with a lot of the parents creating their things or doing their seesaw posts or their toddle activities. That should give us a little insight as to what's happening, because also if parents are helping them, why do they feel like they need to help them? Maybe there's a thing about getting it right. It's okay if they fail. We should have a culture in our classrooms, we should have a culture with ourselves that it's okay to not always know everything. And that's how we're going to actually learn. Okay, the next part, we had authentic assessment, and authentic assessment then lends itself to the next thing, which is actually parent partnership. This is where our relationship with our parents come in, and this is so super important because this is an integral part of distance learning. I think also with the ADIC policy that has come out now for distance learning, it says that students should have an adult with them. This is also a challenge for most families, and we need to be mindful of that not every household has an adult to be with every child. So children with a lot of siblings, parents that may be at work, these are some things that we need to take into consideration. Our nannies with them, and also look at, like, parents are just facilitators, they are not teachers. So we are still the most important part for their learning. We can provide them with the input, we can provide them with the empowerment, and parents should be there to help us. Oh, you just need to unmute yourself, or you need to, how can I bring this in? Oh, he needs a page and a pen. Let me help him get this. Those kind of things, teachers or adults that are around them that should be able to supervise them with. We should not expect parents to be able to reteach the lesson. We should be providing the crux of the lesson, or the most important part of the lesson. So how can we make sure that this is happening for our students? We can do this by making it completely easy for them, making sure that our instructions are clear, and most importantly, our lessons and our expectations are simple, right? Simple instructions. Forget about all the busyness of all the apps and all the ideas and all the things that we saw on TikTok and Instagram and all of these things. Ensure that it's simple and it's meaningful, and it's going to be easy for the children to do on their own, independently. So stick to simple instructions, stick to short videos, and have clear expectations. Let's look at replacing long messages. And we love to send long letters and long seesaw things. Simple switch. Something that I like to do with my students is I use my Apple Memoji here. Let's see if it can work here. I don't know if the voice is working, but basically super simple. Instead of me typing out something, just a quick update. Hi, Stingray parents. Today our session is going to start at 8:30. I hope to see you soon. The link is below. If they're busy, if they're doing something, if they at home, they don't have time to actually open this link or go into there, and then they need the authenticator, and then they need to get into one login. Think about it. How can I make this aspect for these people a little bit easier? If you are teachers to a majority of Emirati students, like I am within the public sector, maybe a lot of their fathers are actually working at this time. We need to be mindful of the situation that we're in, and how can we make their lives a little bit easier for them. we're going to be looking at, the next part is that like asynchronous learning, and this is what we've been doing. Make sure that what your expectations are actually you'll be able to succeed and you'll be able to get it. So asynchronous learning is basically our best friend. Make sure that it's flexible for families. Are we providing them with live lessons and also a recorded lesson? And what does this look like? If a child isn't able to understand something during the live lesson, what measures are in place to ensure that that child's learning is not stopped? Do they have access to these lessons later on? Can they then go back to these lessons and see what they need to take away? How can we reduce the pressure? How can we make sure that learning can happen anywhere and not just in that moment? And because we design for what's happening offline, we can then say, you know what, this is going to be helpful for us because it's simple, it's meaningful, and it is effective. So the key takeaway here is prioritize anytime learning, and remember that the world is your classroom. Allow your students to be able to explore and come back. It's fine. Actually, it's fine if they walk away from the screen. It's about getting them back. That's the most important thing. So I'm fine if they need a little breather, and then bring them back, reel them back in.
Whilst we wait for some of those, I think one of the biggest takeaways for me from listening to all of that was the links back to pedagogy. I think it's so vital and so important, especially at these really early stages, that we make education and learning online as fun as possible. Our children haven't decided to be in this situation, and nor have our adults. And so I think it's really, really brilliant to make sure that we always remember that it is about learning, and it's about really instilling that passion and just kind of going with the flow, especially with the little ones. I had during COVID very small children who I had got a picture of one of them fast asleep on the bed after falling asleep during a lesson. Yeah. So we've all had ins and outs. They're now older and slightly more independent, and I'm experiencing a different side of it. But I think it's really great to be able to reflect, to take a breath, take a moment, but also remember that there's lots of pedagogical support around this as well. If there's anything specific that you would like to see as part of this series, we are hoping to continue to run them throughout the next few weeks, and we will be running more next week, so please do look out for them. And if remote learning is to carry on, we will continue to try and support educators in the best possible way.
My last 10 things that I wanted to just say is that if they have an iPad with them, use the embedded apps that are available. Don't think that you need to get them to create something that's out of this world. It's just about using those simple apps, something like the camera. What can they do? Zooming in, zooming out. They'll have a ball, and you'll be happy that they're engaged.
If you have parents who you are able to connect with, share out to WhatsApp groups, please do share the links to sign up to those sessions, or please join yourself and forward on the video after. More than happy for that to be shared out to communities for people to be able to listen to, understand, and just take some valuable advice from. It's the idea of that is for you to not have to do that for your parents all the time. Sometimes hearing it from another person is a lot more settling, a lot more easy to digest, and also takes a little bit off your plate. So we really hope that that is valuable to you.
I'll just leave this on for a little while longer.
If you can scan the QR code and give some feedback, that always helps us for the work that we do. Thank you. Wonderful.